Well, welcome. Tonight, we're going to meet a very special family who's gone through some extraordinary events, but they're not as uncommon events as people believe. And we want to get a perspective, everything from the recipient to the donor to the mom who has to sit back and try and keep her wits together as she goes through it. Why don't we start with introductions? Mandy, why don't you start us off?
I'm Mandy Goldman, and these are my two kids, Mateo and Leah. Hi. We live in Duxbury, Massachusetts, and we have 4 kids and 2 dogs.
And I'm sure we'll hear from the dogs during the show at some point.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mandy, tell us about what your family's gone through.
When Mateo was 8 years old in 2016, he was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, which is one of the most common types of childhood leukemia, something that's very treatable. It's about a 2-year process of in and out of the hospital of chemotherapy and treatment. So it was back in November when Mateo was not feeling himself. He was just kind of moody, had a stomach ache. He had a little bit of a fever, but like nothing that you keep him home from school about, but like enough that sent me worrying. I took him to the doctor several times saying something's wrong with him. He has Lyme disease. And they said, "You're crazy. He's fine. Like, go home," basically. And I just kept at it. I knew in my heart that something wasn't right. So we ended up taking him to Boston Children's Hospital on November 20th after a night of him throwing up and just really being in a lot of pain. And it was about what felt like 5 minutes, which probably was like an hour, before they actually were able to diagnose him with leukemia. So, in those moments, they came down wearing the oncology pins, and, your heart just sinks because before they could even say the word, "Your son has cancer," I knew because I read their pins. It was awful. I mean, you just, your whole life stops, and you can't imagine what the next months or years or even minute is going to be like. And right away, they brought us up to the 6th floor and started treatment on Mateo. Pretty much within the next couple days, he had 2 surgeries to check his bone marrow to see how progressed the leukemia was. And he had a PICC line placed in his arm. He had chemo into his spine. And he started the chemo right away after that. And, it was really hard for our family. We had 3 other little kids at home, and my husband and I were, just devastated. And for the treatment there, you stay for the first month in the hospital, and you hope to get into remission after the first month. It was right about Christmas time where we got to go home for a few days, and they called us to say that the chemo wasn't working and that Mateo, his cancer was still there and worse than they had thought. So pretty soon after we realized that, they gave us the other terrible news was that his only chance at a cure was to have a bone marrow transplant. And for us, we knew that was pretty serious and risky, and it was devastating. Pretty much as hard as it was to hear he had cancer, it was just as hard to hear he needed a bone marrow transplant. So, and we had relatives that had them and had passed away from their transplant. So we were very scared. And so the next steps after figuring out you needed a transplant, we had to find a donor. So thinking I have 4 kids, we must have a match out of our kids. And at that time, they weren't doing half matched sibling donors. So Mateo had to have. We were lucky enough to find a donor in Germany, a woman, Laura, who was 26 years old at the time, and she was a perfect match for Mateo. He had one perfect match out of 30, I think 300,000 people who were on the bone marrow registry. He had one perfect match, and so we when he had to have a few rounds of more chemo and to get into remission, and then we had the bone marrow transplant in March 2017, and it went fairly well, and Mateo was good. He had complications from the transplant, called graft versus host disease, when your body kind of rejects the new cells. So he had stiffness all over his body. He was on a lot of steroids and he was in a lot of pain, and that sort of went off and on for about a year and a half. But he definitely started to get better from that, and he was cancer free for 3.5 years. So that takes us to this summer. So in July, Mateo was actually feeling pretty great. He just had like a few days of a fever and some back pain. And at that point, we were still in contact with the doctors. I mean, I was still calling his oncologist anytime anything happened. And it was COVID, so they hadn't opened the clinic yet. So it was about a week, 2 weeks that was going off and on, and we made an appointment to come in and get his checkup. And right as soon as we got there and he got his labs drawn, they saw the leukemia right away again in his blood. So on June 8th, we found out that he relapsed. So again, that's, after hearing it the first time, the second time hurts even more. And at that point, when you have a relapse and you have already had a bone marrow transplant, and he only has one donor, and we couldn't use her again, so it was pretty devastating. And then we stayed in the hospital for 41 days for his first treatment to try to help get rid of it and get control of it. And at that point, they told us again that his only chance at a cure would be another bone marrow transplant. But luckily, science has come a long way, and also because we had no other option, we were able to do a half-match sibling transplant. So fortunately, actually, all of our kids are half-matched to Mateo, so we got to pick who we wanted to be the donor. And Leo, being the big brother that he is, stepped up and offered to be his donor.
So now explain to people, what is leukemia?
So acute lymphoblastic leukemia, like Mateo has, is when your B cells are they're making multiple copies of themselves. So like when they took his blood the first time, all of his white blood cells were leukemia. So it basically makes no room for healthy blood to be in your body. So it was 98% of his blood was leukemia when they first diagnosed him. So it's basically when it's rapid, it's acute, so it happens fast, so it just keeps multiplying. And the only way that you can cure it, especially in the high risk category that Mateo was, is that you have the bone marrow transplant, which you have to go through conditioning, where they wipe out all of your good blood and all of your immune system with radiation, total body radiation, and high dose chemotherapy. We're in a special unit on the 6th floor where there's like a HEPA filter, and nobody can come in and out of the unit. He was on multiple monitors, and he had 6 pumps with morphine drip, and I mean, it's a very intense treatment. So what the transplant actually does is, after you do the conditioning that kills off all your blood cells, and you're getting blood transfusions at the same time to keep you alive, Leo just had a surgery where he was put to sleep, and they just took his bone marrow from his hip bones, and it was a pretty easy procedure. It was only really took about 40 minutes probably total, and they just collected his bone marrow straight from his bones. Before the surgery, he just had to have his blood taken, so that was pretty easy. And then they took his blood right from Leo, the stem cells, and they processed them, because Leo and Mateo have different blood type. Well, now they have the same blood type, but originally Mateo, before he had cancer, was O, and then when he had his first transplant, he changed to A. And now with Leo is O, now he's back to O again. So that's pretty cool. So
Well,
after they collect the sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, chemotherapy in its essence seems to be a balancing act. You're trying to kill the patient a little slower than you kill the cancer.
Yes, it's very intense. I mean, they try to get the cancer to be at 0 detection in the body before the transplant, but that doesn't always happen to totally 0. So the hope is that the conditioning will, one, make room for the new immune system and the new stem cells to take hold and grow and find their way to making new blood, but also that it would kill off any cancer that was left over from the other chemo that didn't get to it.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that the basic building block is undifferentiated stem cells. They're the ones that travel around and make hair, make skin, make all sorts of tissue. And when you hit it with the chemo, especially the way you're describing, Mateo got a really heavy dose. It's wiping out all your stem cells.
Good and bad.
Good and bad, it doesn't matter. Just if you're a fast dividing cell, the chemo's going after you.
Yep.
Whether you're the cell with the black hat or the cell with the white hat, doesn't matter. It's going after them all. And somehow, if you wipe everything out, you got to give back the ability to grow new tissue, new cells. I mean, something as simple as your skin, your hair.
It's amazing. It really, I mean, it's pretty magical that you could take, a bag of blood or stem cells like from Leo, and his blood is like better than any medicine could ever be. It's a miracle. Like, he just had an IV that went from the bag of blood into Mateo. Has a port in his chest that the blood just went into his body, and then you wait, which is the hardest part. Probably like the actual day of the transplant is very almost uneventful. I mean, we waited. How long did we wait? It was a very long day with 2 kids in the hospital. It was very stressful.
Originally, they said the bag was coming at like 8 in the morning, and then it got like. Then they said it was coming at 3, and then it went up to 8 p.m. And then I finally got the bag of new bone marrow.
Yeah, it was pretty fun because the two of them hadn't seen each other in almost a month, or yeah, it was a long time. And Leo got to come up to the room, and actually they both pushed the button and started the blood. So
Yeah.
it was pretty awesome.
So now you said this starts off with Mateo being isolated for a month.
I mean, it was July 14th when he went in the hospital when he relapsed, and we were there for 42 days, and then off and on for the next month or two, and then you're in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks before you have the transplant, between the conditioning and all of the process. And then it's about 2 weeks, and then you have the transplant, and then it's anywhere from a month to 3 months. I mean, some people were there a year after their transplant, still in the hospital. So we were lucky. Mateo was it was about 6 or 7 weeks, I think, after his transplant that he was in the hospital that time.
Now those weeks, since his immune system's been stomped on, do they allow anybody to even come in the room with them, or?
The first time before COVID, the kids could come, like his siblings could come, he could have friends come, my grandparents came. But this time it was really hard because there was no visitors at all. Like Nick and I, my husband, we could switch places or we could be there together, but that was it. Nobody else could come and see him.
So Mateo, did you miss your big brother, Super Leo?
I mean, I missed everybody, and it was especially hard to be in the hospital, like, and only seeing my parents. Like, I want to see every 2 weeks. I cried because I missed them, or just I wanted just to see someone new, and not the same nurse and same doctors and everything every day.
You mean you didn't like being with me?
I mean, I like being with you.
So now what did you do? How did you keep yourself busy for a month?
So I played PlayStation, and I did a lot of Legos, and
He was also hooked up to like a morphine drip, and he
I
was
slept.
Yeah, he had some complications this time. He had VOD, which is basically his liver and his kidneys weren't working. So it was luckily he doesn't remember a lot of it, but unfortunately Nick and I remember. It was pretty hard. But we were lucky. I mean, most kids have a transplant end up in the ICU and have a really hard time, and we managed to not go up there. We just he had a drain placed in his stomach while he was wide awake, and the PICC line placed in his arm while he was wide awake. So we got a seriously tough cookie here.
You did that awake?
Yeah, I hardly remember anything. I don't remember, it was kind of I remember one thing, and then a whole bunch of time went by, and then I start remembering again.
Thankfully.
I would think it would be just as hard on you and Nick as on the rest of the procedures.
It was hard. It was really hard. It was, especially knowing that his body was already gone through it before, so it's much more sensitive to everything. So it was scary. But
So Leo, what was your reaction when mom comes home and says, I need you to save your brother's life?
Well, I already knew I was gonna do it. I wasn't gonna let anyone else do it.
You weren't saying that little brat, I'm not going to help him?
Nope. I knew I could.
Now, people get nervous and scared. You know, you hear bone marrow transplant,
Yeah.
and you think of them drilling holes this big to take out bone marrow. I mean, you hear so many people saying they're scared to death to be a bone marrow donor because of what they'd have to go through. Tell us what you went through.
It was absolutely nothing compared to like what came out of it. I mean, I was in bed for like a day, and then the next day I was just stumbling around a little bit. And I don't really remember what happened like after they gave me whatever they did to fall asleep. And then I woke up and my back ached a little bit, and I was fine.
So, man,
They have a scar.
the procedure isn't that terrible on the donor.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No.
No, I mean, you don't even have to have a surgery. Like when a child needs a bone marrow transplant, they need the actual stem cells from the actual bone. So they just it honestly is just like a needle that they just extract the bone marrow. I mean, there's no surgery. I mean, you go to sleep, but it's just essentially just drawing up the marrow. But when adults, and depending on the disease, you can just get you can donate your stem cells through just getting peripheral blood. So it's like just like donating platelets or blood. You just sit in a chair for 5 hours and watch a couple movies, and they take out your blood, they sift out the stem cells, and then they give you your blood back. And like, that's nothing. I mean, nothing compared to what Mateo has to go through. I mean, if you knew that there was a little kid like having a drain placed in his stomach awake, and you're complaining about sitting for 5 hours giving blood, or having a one night in the hospital and a sore back for a couple days, like you would never say no. I mean, like, if you knew you were actually making the difference in saving somebody's life, I mean, for Leo, that's like a gift that he's going to carry with him forever, that he did something like that for somebody else. I mean, especially his brother, but even anybody, he would do it again a million times, right?
Yeah, I want to be able to get back on the registry and do it for someone else.
Yeah, I mean, you start looking at little Mateo's face and you say, how can you say no? I mean, it's hard to believe what he's gone through when you see that smile.
Yeah, he's pretty tough, but along our way, we've met so many families that weren't as fortunate as us. I mean, we had a tough go, but we met a woman I met on Instagram whose son has had 4 matches, and then right before they're about to do it, they backed out, and that happens a lot of the time. And
people signed up and then at the last minute said no thanks.
They do that a lot because of whatever it is, their situation. But it's like these families, like certain types of diseases like sickle cell anemia, or another person I met had a disease, had a gene mutation that she didn't have antibodies or to a specific bacteria, and like her only treatment and cure is a transplant. So she has time to wait to get the bone marrow transplant, but she can't find a perfect match for her daughter. And it's just, there's so many people, especially people of mixed races and different demographics, have even less of a chance of finding a perfect match or even a close match. And that's the devastating part, because you run out of time. Leukemia is like, you only have a small window. But
you mentioned that Mateo had a donor, but you couldn't, excuse me, you could not use the same donor again?
We couldn't use her again because basically it failed because his cancer came back, so they wouldn't use her again. And because he had a lot of the graft versus host disease, so there was just too many complications to put him through it. It wouldn't have been the best scenario.
Oh, okay. So it's a matter of that her transplant didn't give you the results you wanted, so you don't want to use her again. You want to find somebody like Super Leo
Exactly.
with good marrow.
And I mean, it's amazing because when he first got diagnosed, that wasn't an option. I mean, they wouldn't have used our children because they just didn't have as much success with a half match. So you have to match in like, oh my God.
He wants in.
Oh my God. Like literally the dogs have never done that ever.
That's okay. I mean, they're hearing about family and they're saying, you forgot part of the family.
That was Mateo's dog. Tell him who that was.
That was my dog from Make-A-Wish, and
When
yeah.
did you get him?
You wished for a dog?
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah, his first. Tell him about your first wish.
My first wish was to meet my donor, but because of COVID, we couldn't fly out to Germany. So they had me like ask for like a new wish. So I wish for Bernard Golden Mountain Doodle.
And actually, the family that donated our Cookie, our dog, their son also had a bone marrow transplant, and they decided to have puppies and donate their dog, and it all happened in June. So while Mateo was in the hospital battling for his life, we somehow got 2 puppies. And I can't believe I've done that.
How does this work? I mean, you're talking about a family in Germany. How did that come about?
The family who donated the dog actually lives in Carlisle, Mass.
Oh.
Actually. His first donor was from Germany, and we were supposed to go visit her for his Make-A-Wish, but then with COVID, so. But we know her, and she's wonderful.
But, you know, there's going to be people out there that see that smiling Mateo face and say, regardless if it's a little inconvenient, if I can save somebody like that by donating, I'd like to. So what do I do? How do I sign up? Where do I sign up?
All you have to do is go on to Be the Match. We actually have a hashtag and a text number that you can text for Mateo. I'll get you the number. And if you just go on to Make-A-Wish, sorry. You go on to Be the Match website, or you text the phone number, and then you just put in Mateo Tough, and it'll link you right to the right place to request a swab kit. So they send you out a swab kit, and it comes in the mail, and you just swab the inside of your cheek, do the other side, and put it back in and send it back. And then you're just it takes 5 minutes, and you're on the registry for life, really. And it's free if you're between the age of 18 and 44, I think. It's free. So you just go on, they'll send you a kit, and then you're on the list. Or we are working, especially in Milford, to set up some drives where you can just drive by and swab your cheek and get on the list, or and sign up. So it's super easy. It's really easy. It takes under 5 minutes.
So I'm not signing up for a specific person when I get swabbed, right? I'm just going into a repository and then
Yeah. It's, yeah, you just go into the national registry list. So your HLA typing will show up, and then when the doctors need somebody, need a donor, they just go into the database and put, Mateo's like 29, 24, 38 or something like that, and it'll just search the registry for a match, and then they call you, and if you're lucky enough to get called to, they'll save somebody. It's really an amazing thing.
I mean, not to minimize what Super Leo did, but you're talking about saving a child's life by going in to watch 2 or 3 movies.
Definitely.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. I go in, I sit down.
And it's really kind of that simple. Like, it's that much just to help someone. So people make it out to be like this huge thing, but really it's not really. I mean, it's saving someone's life, but the other half, like the donor side, it's not that much work to help the other person.
Well, I think that's admirable for you to look at it that way, because in the old days, they had to drill many holes into your bones because, you're trying to suck marrow out, and the technology wasn't there. Sounds like they made it so easy that how could you not want to save some child's life?
Yeah.
I think the part too that people don't understand is like, one, you don't hear people talking about it, so you don't really know the importance of it and how it's a life-saving gift. I mean, you literally give somebody a chance at living that they wouldn't have, and a family to have their cute boy. I mean, I can't even imagine that. We had so many people that we lost who didn't get as fortunate as we were.
And like lots of people go to like great lengths to like try to save someone's life when you could just swab your mouth and like save someone's life.
That's a perfect way of bringing it into perspective. You're not running into a burning building. You're not, jumping off a cliff, but you're saving somebody's life.
And I think as a mother, I feel like we need to teach our kids, especially the kids that are, when your kid turns 18 and they get to vote, or they can join the bone marrow registry when they're 18. So I feel like it's like a motherly duty to teach your kid, do you want to do something that can change your life and somebody else's, that you get to share that amazing process with? Like, we should be educating our kids to go out and do it, and our community and anybody, just talk about becoming a donor and spread the word as fast as we can. And we're trying.
So now, as we look, Mateo, you're getting ready to go back to school and get on with your life.
Yeah.
How's it been being away from school the whole time?
It's been hard. Right now with online school, it's been better, but it was really hard being away from school. I couldn't talk to any of my friends, and like it's hard with all the work, and like, yeah.
Have you started school now?
Only online school. Um, only online school. Some kids, like go into school, but from the transplant, there's like restrictions. I like can't go in school or like in like other places. Anywhere, yeah.
Well, besides the COVID restrictions, how long do they isolate you or keep you from running around as a kid?
It's about a year. A year of it's pretty similar to the COVID restrictions. Like you can't go in any buildings, you can't go any storage, you can't go in anyone's house, nobody can come in your house, you can't eat certain foods, you got to drink bottled water, you have to wear a mask, wash your hands all the time. So it's a long time, but we've gotten very creative, right, Leo?
Mhm.
Over the years, we got pretty good at this.
Yeah.
How has the house changed, Leo? Your
Like-
mom says you got creative. What kind of changes have you had to make?
Well, we just had like found new ways to just have fun instead of like going places. Like I don't know how to explain it really.
We find fun.
Well, you get to spend more time with your brother
Yeah.
and the dog behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, how would you describe the change in your life, Leo?
Good. I mean, back then, like the first time around, I would never have thought like this could have ever happened.
Well, no, your mother would say, can you really, really do me a favor and wash the dishes? Can you help clean the kitchen? I mean, that's a teenage thing.
Yeah,
Can you save your brother's life?
I know. Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
What kind of questions do your friends ask you?
They asked like what it was like. Did everyone just asked like how much did it hurt?
Yeah.
They all wanted to do it too. They all wanted to save Mateo.
Well, and I think you've hit something pretty profound when you say they want to save Mateo, because there's so many Mateos out there.
Yeah.
You know, and I hate to think that because I didn't take 5 minutes to get swabbed, that I don't know. Now, I guess at my age, they don't want me. You know, at 65, I'm too old. My stem cells aren't stemming as well.
I think you just have to pay $100 to do it if you're over 44 because
Oh.
it's a they have a grant from the government to swab for free from 18 to 44. So they still do use donors that are older, but it's better if you're younger because you're just exposed to a lot less and there's less viruses and illnesses already in your immune system that you don't want to pass along to the rest.
Right. Yeah, your exposure is a lot less when you're young. By my age, I've been exposed to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know every 3 minutes someone gets diagnosed with a blood cancer.
Oh, wow.
480 people each day and 20 people an hour. That's how many people could possibly like live a long life if they could receive a life-saving bone marrow transplant.
Now, is it mainly young people or do old people come down with leukemia?
Yes, my husband was just at a funeral tonight for one of his childhood friend's mother who just died of leukemia at 74. And she actually did have a bone marrow transplant also. So it's really hard.
Wow.
That's why you just every day you're lucky. Just take it.
Yeah, it sure puts in perspective what that Mateo smile, what your kids' smiles really mean. I mean, as silly as having a dog jump up in front of camera that you'll never forget.
Oh my God. She never did that before, ever.
No.
But again, that's just one of the nice things that y'all will remember.
Yeah.
You know, someday when Mateo's old and gray, he'll say, I remember when the dog, the doodle, jumped right in front of the camera on TV. So now, be the match.
Be the match.
Be the match.
I can
What is that?
So Be the Match is the National Bone Marrow Registry. So they're the ones that it's the database, the national database. So there's lots of other companies that do it too, but they all go to the same database, and that's the Be the Match database. It's the national database. So this, I don't know if I can show it, but no, I don't think I can. Yeah. Isn't that too dark?
There you go.
Yeah, so this is the text number. You can just text on your phone 61474, and then you text Mateo Tough, and that'll link you right to it. And they're counting how many people we get under Mateo's name. So we're getting close, I think, to maybe about 600 or something we have now. So we're trying. Every person counts. So
Mateo, 600 people?
Probably half.
Yeah, okay. Even 300's a lot. You're lucky to have your mom getting the rest of the 300.
Yeah, well, we got lucky enough. Mateo, like our whole family, but Mateo is the star of a really nice article in the Boston Globe this Christmas. And we got to be on NPR and share our story, and that helped a lot too. And we're trying to get out to the community and set up drives. And my sister, Amy Leone, who owns Community Impact and Chris's Corner, she is helping us to spread the word in Milford. And we're really looking forward to having a lot of events there, as far as like the churches are going to be involved, and maybe on Community Day, we're going to have a booth set up, or people can go to Chris's Corner and Community Impact and pick up a kit, or she'll have the flyers that have the scan barcode and the text number, so we can get more people involved.
Well, Amy certainly has done a lot of things that's had an incredible impact on our little town.
Yes, she's pretty amazing.
Well, it's amazing that she can keep the positive attitude she has, because she goes through quite an emotional roller coaster when she's explained what she faces every day.
Yeah, this weekend, what'd she do? This weekend when she went to they went down to Mass Ave and like donated food and snacks to all the people on the street there, and in Methadone Mile down there. It's just awful what she sees. But she does so many good positive things. So this is going to be one more thing to add to her roster.
Yeah.
So now you're planning on having events in Milford that people can go to?
Yes, we are going to have a blood drive sometime in the next few months. We're just trying to nail down a date for the blood drive. Will come a bus from Boston Children's Hospital, so people can donate blood, and we'll also have Be the Match be there, so they can come and they can get swabbed right there at the event.
Oh, that's great. So
Yeah.
I can do both at once.
Yeah, so it's super easy, and we're hoping to do that a bunch of times. And then a lot of the churches in the town are also going to add it to their bulletin, so that they can, hopefully we can just keep spreading the word. We're working on trying to get a bill was passed to have, when you go to the registry and you get your car inspected, or get your car renewed, where it says be an organ donor. We're trying to get them to also say, do you want to be a bone marrow donor, and get some advertisements there, and some information out to people. So hopefully that's going to happen. It's already passed. It's just we're waiting for it to, COVID, I guess, is slowing it up. But we're just trying to make a difference, just as many people as we can.
Well, I like this idea, because when I check off be an organ donor, I'm assuming I'm not going to be around to enjoy the benefits there of knowing that I helped somebody.
I know. It's amazing, right? So Leo, you feel so good knowing it, and Mateo's other donor. I mean, it's such a feeling that you get when you get to do something so important for somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, being a bit self-centered, it's kind of nice that you do it and you get to enjoy the fact that you did it.
Definitely.
You know, by the time they start taking my organs, they'll probably be all dust. But it, you know, at that point, I know I feel better that I check off the box,
Right.
but I don't get to see a smiling Mateo face to say,
Exactly.
you know, I helped somebody.
Exactly. And I feel like it's like you would check it off if you knew what it was or knew where, or could read the box to check off, and it's just not out there enough. So,
Well, that's funny because if I was asked, would I be a bone marrow donor? When I was asked, would I be an organ donor? I probably 90% chance I'd say, sure.
right.
I mean, one is a lot less intrusive than the other. I've got to be dead for one.
Right.
You know what I mean? This way I'm alive and I can help and I mean, it seems selfish, but it's kind of nice to feel good about helping out a kid or helping out somebody else.
Definitely. I mean, especially this world where everybody's getting so, has so much anxiety and stress. I mean, what feels better than doing something like that? I mean, that's something you can have your whole life. When you're feeling down, you can say, oh yeah, but I remember I saved that kid, right?
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. I mean, realistically, no matter how you feel, you know, if you're a grumpy old man or not, you look at a child's face. I don't know many people who would turn their back if, you know, watching 3 movies, sitting in a chair watching 3 movies, you could save somebody's life, especially a child. How can you say no?
Unfortunately, it really does happen a lot, and it's just devastating for the family. It's just awful, and the more people that we have on the registry, the more people that can get to say yes. It's
But you also have a better chance of finding that match.
definitely,
I
and
mean, this,
especially like there's a lot. The more the more like different races that you are, I mean, the percentage of finding a match is even less and less and less. So it's like just they need diversity in the registry, a lot of diversity in the registry. So that's a big part that needs to grow. So we're hoping that we can get that, build that up too.
yeah, and realistically, like you said, the odds get worse and worse the more specialized you become.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, it's all a numbers game. Genetics is a numbers game. If I can choose from a million people, the odds are much higher that I'll find what I need versus 100 people.
Right.
And I mean, if you think about it, so many of us have gone through the worst swab in the world, having that stupid COVID thing stuck up your nose,
Right.
but you did it.
Right.
I mean, I've gone through it a number of times because you want to be doing what not only protects yourself, but also protects the people you love.
Definitely.
And just taking a swab inside my mouth, okay, so it's a Tootsie Pop. You know, I'm eating a lollipop. Okay, it's a lot easier than having that thing stuck up my nose.
Yeah, it's just your cheek, right? Just it's good.
Yeah, it's a DNA swab.
Yeah.
You know, how many people have gone to find out if they're 1% Lithuanian or 5% this or that? You know, and they'll do that voluntarily. Now you could do that again voluntarily, but really save somebody's life.
Yes, that actually just gave me a good idea. Maybe I should call those people, ancestry.com, and make that be a checkbox on their questionnaire. They get everybody's DNA. I'm gonna work on that one.
You know, I mean, again, it's all a numbers game. The more numbers you get, the better off you are. So Mateo, once you get back to school, what are you looking forward to the most?
Making new friends and just getting to know everybody in person.
That is wonderful. I'm sure you'll make lots of new friends if you keep smiling the way you are. And then everybody will want to talk to Super Leo. Now, Leo, you are a superhero in my mind.
Thanks.
You know, it's not every day you hear a teenager willing to go the extra steps to save somebody's life. Now, it's even better that it's your own family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mandy, my hat's off to you and your husband. I mean, I can go through all sorts of pain if it's me. When it's my children, it just hurts an order of magnitude more because you can't do anything.
And you have to keep smiling, keep them strong. That's the hard part. Mateo is a really good patient, though. He's super good. Tough. And funny, so that helped. We laughed a lot.
You laughed a lot. You mean you got to point and say, Mateo, haha?
No, Mateo would like dress in costumes in the hospital and like bust the nurses and stuff like that.
Don't bust the nurses, Mateo. They get even. They can really find creative ways of getting even.
You might have had one of those. Or you were getting even on her, actually.
No, but realistically, I mean, you couldn't go to a better place than Children's.
Yeah.
I mean, we're lucky we've got a super medical center here in Milford, but it's a different league when you start looking at children's diseases that you can go into Children's.
Yeah, we were very lucky when Mateo first got diagnosed. We had like 3 nurses that were assigned to us, and at the time they lived. At the time they were working on the 6th floor, and when Mateo got back to being able to be outpatient, they actually switched to the Jimmy Fund. So we got to see them at the Jimmy Fund, and it's been wonderful because they're really his cheerleaders and his support team. And I don't
Now,
think we could have done it
Mandy,
without them.
how did you balance having Mateo in the hospital for a month and still having 3 children?
I mean, we were there for like 6 months the first time, and I don't know, maybe 4 months the second time. It was really hard. I mean, we switched off and on in the hospital. Like my husband would stay on the weekends, and I would go home on the weekend, and I'd stay during the week, or we'd switched it up. But you know, my husband was the one working and taking care of 3 kids and 2 puppies this time, and making dinner and everything. I don't know how he did it. I mean, being in the hospital is also hard, but I could focus on Mateo, and you know, it's hard. A lot of spoiling happens. You spoil everybody just to get through the day. A lot of Amazon click to cart.
But that's something that most families, I mean, thank God we came out of it. Uh-oh.
I think Daddy's home.
I was going to say, somebody's coming in the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let them out.
Is Daddy here? Come here, Violet.
Well, somehow you can tell even the dogs are happy in this house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Violet, you want to say
They're
hi?
like, where'd he go? Where'd he go? He's back. He's back.
There's a baby Goldman. Hi, sweetie.
This is Violet.
Hi, Violet. Now you made me jealous. How old are you, Violet?
I am 6.
Wow. a big girl. My granddaughter just turned 2.
Yeah.
Let them out, I guess. I don't know. We don't know what to
They're
do.
going crazy.
Look, this should be the worst problem you have today, is that
Seriously.
happy dogs are barking.
Exactly.
If that's the worst problem you face today, you're not doing too bad.
I know.
What message do you want to leave with our viewers?
What message do we want to leave?
Help out when you can.
Become a bone marrow donor. Get on the registry and save a life like Mateo
The extra step isn't that
and
bad.
Leo. Yeah.
Be a super Leo.
One swab can save a life.
I love it. Guys, thanks for coming on and sharing your experience. Is that Dad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bring Dad over.
Okay.
There he is. Hi there.
How are you?
We've had a pleasurable 58 minutes.
That's great.
Learning about Super Leo and Mateo, learning about you swapping time and keeping the family going. Of course, it's always, I'm going to get in trouble for being sexist, but I know in my house, it's always mom that carries the heaviest burden.
Well, it's the case in this house too.
When the kids wanted to play, there was dad. But if they were sick or something, somehow mom had to carry that burden. So I
was
thank
both.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story. I hope that we can get a couple people. And when you have your events, let's publicize them so that people like me who had no idea will go down and give blood and at the same time sign up. Because I can't imagine I want to pass up the opportunity to help that smiling Mateo face become old and gray like me.
Exactly.
So to our 6 loyal viewers, thank you for joining us. Please consider becoming a match. Look at that smiling face on Mateo, and that should be enough to get you to go there. And as I always say, may tomorrow be a better day than today. May God bless. And we look forward to more shows and helping out more people. Good night, all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not too long since I've been home. Been running all my life just